February 20th, 2025 meeting, City of Diamond Head.
You're not gonna, well, I'm not gonna say this is my church. Thank you. But I
was on the phone, when I was riding with you, I could understand it.
It was.
Okay. Well, I just thought it'd be a nice touch to just.
I enjoyed it.
She was heading to work. She's working a night shift tonight. So.
Yeah. But I know it wouldn't come from you, but it can come from me or anybody else.
It's kind of hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't do it tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just basically
Yep.
check recording.
Yep.
So there he is.
Hi there.
Gary, you did make it. Eddie, I know
Yes.
you. Melanie.
Gary Borks. Ginger's daughter.
Okay, so what do you know about my
She lives two doors down.
We're opposites.
Really? Well, we don't know each other that well. We lived next to each other for many, many years, but we really just started talking in the last one.
Did David call you this afternoon or not?
No.
He hadn't got over you, okay.
No. I didn't hear back from Pro Data either. So I don't know the estimate for the office.
Was it scary?
Well, I don't know yet, but I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm not. It can't be much.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Well, we're in a little better
Oh, yeah.
position than we were a couple days ago anyway.
Did you
Walked
mark
out
your corrections?
online.
Okay, that's, I went.
That's why.
Yeah, David
That's why I was
called
trying to
and
say. A
asked
couple
about
places I just wrote notes.
somebody that
Okay.
And said something.
from our
And
end,
the
our
corrections was
else
mostly
to
in
be
the
on the
purple stuff.
Okay.
But I didn't,
website as far as, an administrator, or could be an administrator. And yeah, I said, and basically it'd just be a backup
this was
more
all
than anything
stuff
else.
that
The
I
truck
just
runs over me tomorrow,
in
then
my-
somebody
in
knows
my
what's
head.
going on and can do something
Yeah,
about it.
and the thing is,
And we discussed your name, so you,
Mr. Park here, I didn't read quite.
but I didn't know whether he was gonna call you or not.
And
I was trying to get the website to come up in here, but
well,
it's not, I don't have enough
it said,
reception.
and determine it is still possible to conduct.
No,
Continuing
one of these
construction.
days
That's
we'll put a
true, but
monitor out
what
here.
he's going to do, look and see what
Okay,
has
thank you,
already
Gary.
been done that he can't do, and identify what can still be done, and adjust the fees accordingly. So I tried to make it a little clear.
Okay.
What I did.
Well, you just want to type it up and send it to me,
Closer.
or what?
Okay, well,
You know, I just thought of something. When
What's
I
that?
sent you that email
Yeah.
talking about questions,
Yeah.
am I even allowed to speak since I'm in the Hot
oh,
Spring County
absolutely.
side?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean,
Not officially probably, but if you want to, that's fine. I think it's fine.
Well, just what I emailed you the other day,
Yeah,
just those couple of things.
Right.
But, you know,
I think everybody should have the opportunity to talk regardless
Yeah.
at this point, and whether it's,
Yeah, we're not excluding
we're not
anybody.
looking for,
We just,
Well, because I know eventually we're
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
annexed in.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, it's just, I just now thought about that and I thought,
no, I think it's fine, because all we ask is anybody's got a comment or question, let us know ahead of time so we can know if it's anything we need to be ready for. But
Well,
I think-
mine's probably premature at best since we're still in the infancy of everything.
but it's, people's gonna be wanting to know. It's
Yeah.
pertinent.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do
And
it.
I'm, just to let you know, I'm trying to, so that I don't top a lot of time when I do ask the question. I've got an email that I sent to not Hot Springs, I'm sorry, to Cherokee Village up in North Arkansas. Because they were so similar to us. I don't know. I think you and I have actually talked about this.
Yeah.
And I've asked for some more information from them. So I'm hoping I get a response back.
Okay.
I sent it to their city clerk. If I don't hear by the first of the week, I'll call them. They had a lot worse weather than we did.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, they were supposed to have their city council meeting tonight. They postponed to next Thursday
Really?
because of the streets.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get that information, and so that, you know, just, you know, I'll print it off and pass it off to you so that you'll have, you know, some more information that you know, might be useful in the future.
Yep, absolutely. Everything we can get right now is on.
Yeah, well, and there's, you know, they're so similar.
Yep.
Because it's two counties.
Right. I
had
They
it on my-
incorporated in 1978.
Yeah.
It didn't
Oh,
pass
on
the
the
first
city.
time.
Yeah.
One of the counties said, no,
we don't wanna do
but,
that.
and their most recent population is actually
On the
smaller
city
than I
Facebook
thought. I
page?
thought they were close
On
to
the city.
6,000. They're just under 5,000
I'm not-
as far as total population.
I understand
Well,
that.
and
I'm
we're
trying to get
right
there.
about 1,000. We really wish we were just a few over 1,000, as we'll talk about. But the fact that we're a little under 1,000 gives us some more headaches.
I can pull
Oh,
it up
I'm
on
sure. I'm sure. Thanks.
Yeah, that, sure.
the Facebook page too.
Yeah, that would be the job.
Do you just want to email it to me?
Now, I sent you,
I can even see it.
okay, I'll look again and be sure. Yeah, because I sent them.
Because I looked at it on my
maybe-
phone, my iPad, and my laptop.
I've had that, somebody else, I sent something and they didn't get it, and so I don't know what the deal is, but I sent them both.
You don't
after
have
my
any
changes.
more copies of your agenda.
No, I don't. No.
Pete was gonna pull it up, I think, or somebody asked about it, so on their phone, but
Well, maybe I'll just try to go through it, mention
Oh.
each piece when I get
The
there.
mic's right there.
I think we're getting there.
That's good, that's good.
And sometimes that mic doesn't like to work.
What then?
The mic.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, because it's,
All right, if everybody's ready, call the meeting to order. The first order of business is pledge of allegiance, so if you'll stand and follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, and so the next order of business is a roll call to declare a quorum. Shane is not here, but that still gives us over a majority, which is a quorum that we would need, so we're official. The next order of business is approving the minutes of the last standard meeting that we had in January. So I know you've seen the minutes. Has anybody got any questions about those? They looked good to me. Okay, if we could have a motion to accept the minutes then.
motion to accept. Second.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes, raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, the next order of business is any ceremonies or proclamations and such. We don't have any of that right now. The next order of business is public comments, and we really ask for those in time for us to know what they are in case we need to get anything together to respond to them. And we did have one from Gordon Moore. So Gordon, if you want to come up and state your question, then we'll talk about it.
You ready to come up? I'm loud enough that I can probably.
That's fine. You can,
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My question was, have y'all had any discussions at all about future city taxation? I mean, I know we're still in the infancy here, but any discussion about that type of thing to possibly either reduce the POA dues or maybe even possibly eliminate them at some point? And then I did have one other thing that I told Ralph. I said that if Mr. Lane wants to claim that we don't exist, even though the Secretary of State of Arkansas says we do, as a city council, it won't make any difference to him, but why don't you put out a proclamation that we don't recognize him?
I understand. And by the way, for those who may not have seen them, I brought our certificate of incorporation signed by the Secretary of State, and then I also brought the certificate verifying that we are a city and that I'm the duly elected mayor signed by the governor. So anybody wants to take a look at those, I brought those down. So maybe I should send copies to Mark. we're not worried about that. Anyway, in your question, yeah, we've thought about taxes, and our basic thrust has always been not to include any other taxes. You know, we've already paid property taxes and sales taxes to other things. I will talk a little bit more later about sales tax though. But in general, we're trying to rely on what we can, you know, being a city opens up a lot of doors for grants. So we're trying to look at that and say, what can we go get? And we're looking at that. There's a few things we've even looked at and know that just because it's not owned by the city, like the water and sewer system, we cannot go get grants for that. But we asked that question because it's under the purview of the county, but it's operated by the local board, which they appoint. And so we thought, well, it's, you know, it's under the purview of the county. We now have a city overlaying that, so all that's in the city, but we went and asked the legal question, and we cannot do anything for that until sometime maybe in the future it does get moved over to the city. So anyway, we've got enough on our plate right now. I did talk to Judge Mahoney about just beginning to explore that possibility for down the road so we could get grants and stuff. And so we'll kind of explore that, but you know, that's probably for, like I said, for down the road thing. But in general, we should get a general fund turned back from the state and a street fund from the state. And that's the way all the cities basically operate. Yeah, they have sales tax and stuff, but they also, the state collects all these different taxes, and then they send it out to the cities based on their population. Now, I want to reiterate, just so everybody knows, because we talked about this before, but you know, a lot of people, it's hard to get the same word to everybody. So when in the incorporation, we had to use the state geographical information system. And it's just like the Census Bureau. They use the same data. They set the boundaries for the cities, make it all that legal. And we have to use that for incorporation. But as soon as you're incorporated, you go to another section of the law and have to deal with the state treasurer to ask about getting turnback money. And one of the things they require by statute is a certified census from the U.S. Census Bureau. The GIS no longer works. And when we talk to Census Bureau, they do provide that. You have to fill out everything, but they only run that those one time a year, and it's like in September, October. So we won't get that data until then. Then we have to turn it to the state. They have to get us on the books to get money to us. I don't think we'll see anything this year, which was a bit of a shock. So people have been donating. We've been minimizing what we have to do to spend money on, but there's certain things you have to do. And so we're trying to operate our way through that. But the plan right now is not to increase taxes, but to use that state turnback money and grants to do what we need to do. So that's the plan. Did I answer enough, or?
Well, yeah, mine, it was really more directed towards the possibility of eliminating at least part of the POA.
Okay.
And that was kind of, when I said tax, it was just for lack of a better term.
We've actually talked about that possibility because a lot of people have mentioned they would like to not have to deal with POA. And we talked to the attorney about that just generally, but he said it is possible. They've done that before. But, you know, it's not necessarily easy because the POA is also incorporated by the state. So you have to unincorporate, which means votes and all the people who are involved have to line up with that. And then you've got all the property and all out there, and that has, you know, assumingly that would be taken over by the city, but that's also going to be some kind of a legal process to have to go through, maybe with the vote. So it's probably still something down the road with everything else we're dealing with now, but we might look at that more carefully about what would be involved and how do you have to make all those things line up to happen. So if people wanted to do it enough, you know, as a city right now, we'd be hard pressed to take that over. The other thing is that the city could not have a POA fund, you know, dues. They have to do it by taxes. It would probably have to be property taxes, which means we'd have to pass then and be voted on for that. Well, how do you end one so that the other picks up without losing anything? That all would have to get worked out. So we're probably going to look at that just to see what would be necessary and be ready down the road, but that's where it is right now anyway.
But that's what I hope to have for you next month through my research that you and I just discussed.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get that all together and get some of those questions.
And when we went up to Holiday Island, before we had the election, we were trying to learn things, and was the last city incorporated. And so some of us went up and sat down and talked with them to pick their brain. And they have a similar situation. They don't have a POA, they call it a district, but it's really what it was, same kind of thing. And so they're doing it in a phased fashion. The district is phasing down and the city is phasing up things. And so they've worked it out and are going that direction. So the transition will be completely made, and I don't remember when that was, another 3 years or something, I think. But anyway, but you just have to look at it and figure out what has to be done to make it.
And they were in a non-hostile situation.
That's true, yes. Yeah, everybody was friendly and willing to go do it. There, we might have a different situation, but anyway, or at least thinking about it.
And one thing too, Ralph, the ordinance we passed last meeting, the 2025-001 ordinance, indicated that we would not have a tax at this particular time. And that has been filed with county clerk, just so you know.
Yeah, it actually showed 0.00, but each city has to show what their taxes are going to be and their plan for it, and it has to be turned into the county clerk then. And so we've done that, and so for this year.
Each year, yeah.
Each year you have to do that. So anyway. Okay. I'll tell you what, maybe this is a good time. I was going to have it later, but let me go ahead and, since we were talking about the POA and stuff, let me just mention, if I can get to it here. And some of y'all have seen this because I posted it. I posted it because I thought everybody needed to see things that are coming in involving the city. But I had to put my glasses on. This is a letter that I got from Mark Lane addressed to me, and it's on POA letterhead with him identified as the general manager. And it says, Ralph Carruth, after attending your council meeting on Thursday the 16th, I've decided it will be better for you to hold your meetings elsewhere going forward. My belief is that you have received approval from the court to proceed with becoming an incorporated city, but as of now, you have not met all the requirements to actually be an incorporated city. Another factor in my consideration is that a number of your associates, along with yourself, are suing your own POA. Therefore, until that lawsuit is resolved, you all should meet somewhere other than the POA common areas where you are not under control. Until you have all met the requirements to become a city, I feel you are only trying to attempt to thwart the marketing plans of the developer. It seems very coincidental that the plaintiff group and the city and the council elect members are so similar. We will let the courts decide, but until then, we do not recognize you as incorporated city. Signed, Mark Lane. I first was just going to kind of ignore that because it really don't matter what he thinks. But I thought, no, I need to address some of that. So I sent him a letter back, and so it's in reference to that letter of January 20th. And I said, Mark Lane, to avoid conflict, we have moved the city council monthly meeting. You stated in your reference letter that you believe we are trying to thwart the marketing plans of the developer. I have never heard a word from anyone about thwarting the marketing plans. The city would welcome development. It brings new neighbors and new resources to support the growth, maintenance, and improvements needed for this community. We see the city of Diamond Head working with the POA as a potential win-win for the community. Yes, some of the city officials are plaintiffs in the lawsuit you mentioned. That started well before any of us signed up for city positions. And I believe the others just want to help the city and our community and can compartmentalize the lawsuit as separate. Whether you recognize the city of Diamond Head or not is totally irrelevant. The judge ruled that all the requirements were met. The Arkansas Secretary of State certified the city of Diamond Head as a city, and it's recognized by the governor of Arkansas. Signed, Ralph Caruth. Anyway, it just, responds in as nice a way as I thought it could to that letter. So. Okay, back to the agenda. We're up to reports now, and since we do have a certain number of topics and we have some committees and people working on those, then I've got them listed to report on that. The first is the annexation, and Benny Prince is not available. She's the lead of that, but she had had a report and asked Kendra to talk about it. So I'm going to let you have it, Kendra.
She may have to come around here.
Well.
I'm just going to read, Benny prepared a report. Benny prepared a report to be read tonight. The committee divided up the following statutes to review. If you want to know the numbers, it's 711-205, 711-201, 1443-04, 1442-08, A and B, 1444, 1029, and 1440-101. These statutes have been reviewed and the committee working with Mayor Caruth to work out the annexation details and to put a tentative schedule. One of the statutes indicates that and Ralph mentioned this, one of the statutes indicate that if the U.S. Census report shows that the city of Diamond Head is less than 1,000 people, we can only annex 1/10 the size of the city of Diamond Head, the acreage of the Garland County side. If we are greater than 1,000, this statute will not apply. The committee is working on the assumption that the city is less than 1,000 as of this date. In doing so, we will work out the details with the Arkansas GIS, which is the geographical study, in the legal description of dividing the Diamond Head Hot Spring County side into 2 sections and recommending that we annex one section in November of 2025 and the other section in November of 2026. There is a statute that prevents 2 annexations within the same year. Both counties will have to hold an election for the annexation. The goals for the committee are as follows: to work to get the GIS survey, which is the acreage, and to get the legal description of the division to annex the Hot Spring County side. Mayor Caruth, the second goal is Mayor Caruth will meet with the Hot Spring County judge, who is Judge Thornton, on the annexation process. Third, the committee members will meet with both the Garland County and the Hot Spring County election commissioners and review the timeline for the election in November. We will revise the tentative budget for the annexation process because the city does have to pay for the election. And the last thing, which is really the most critical thing, is the U.S. Census certification must be received in a timely manner for any of this to proceed. We cannot do it without the U.S. Census certification. This certification must accompany the annexation process. So, any questions?
The census information, does it include just adults or does it include children as far as inhabitants of the county?
I really don't know the answer. If it's, because we get into registered voters, residents, and then we get into residents who have children. So I don't really know what the answer to that is. Ralph might.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that the population is different than the registered voters, and it is all people when they do the count in 2020. The data we'll be using is still the 2020 census data, And I think it involves those people in the household. And what you were saying, the numbers we've gotten is the population on Garland County side is like 960 something. So that's why we're just a little under that 1,000 mark. If we were over 1,000, we would not have a acreage limit on what we could annex. But the way it is now, we do.
That total number includes everyone that lives within that county,
On the Garland County side of
all
yeah.
inhabitants of the homes.
Yeah, it's not property owners, people that own lots, that don't count. It's people that live in homes. So, and I did, any other questions?
That answered my.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Kendra. And thanks for helping work with the, I know y'all had probably a belly full going through 2 years plus of getting incorporation, and then we asked you to do more, so we appreciate it. But I did check back with the census people because we've got a request in already, but we know that it won't get filled until the fall. And so knowing that we're doing this annexation, because if we get the census data then, we're going to have to turn right around and do this same request, and based on the time frame, will be another year getting the official certified population for the Hot Springs County side. So I asked, could we change our request to incorporate the area that we expect to annex in Hot Springs County? Betting on the come a little bit, because we'd be messed up if those people did not vote to annex. I don't think that's going to happen, so it seemed to me a reasonable thing to ask. The answer back was yes, we can change it if we get the change by March 1st. You know, these people are working hard, but we're going to have to get with the GIS and define the boundary and the census data that we'll need for them to do that certification, and so we'll see, but I doubt it. So we're going to be stuck with getting the annex, probably waiting another year to get, you know, and then when we annex the second part, we got the same problem again. I mean, this could go on. With that in mind, and I think I mentioned this before too, but because of this situation, kind of untenable for new cities or cities annexing, I've been in contact with everybody. I mean, our state senator, our state representative, I talked to the director of the municipal league. I've talked to Westerman's office. Of course, his is federal, can't do much, but at least it don't hurt to have their support. And then, of course, I've talked to the deputy state treasurer, and they all agree, but they also agree that it's really slow and difficult to change laws that we're going to have to go to. They're in the legislature now. Representative said, you know, won't be happening soon, but we'd like to get that changed to say, and it'd be simple change, just instead of saying a certified population from the U.S. Census Bureau, let us again use the GIS. And so we'll keep pushing that, because even if it don't help us right now with the numbers we're trying to get now, it's going to help us in those annexations. And so we need to get them to go change that. We may even get to a point where, you know, they listen to volume, and if we get everybody to send a request saying this needs to get changed, you know, we get 300 or 400 people to do that, that might be more helpful. But anyway, we'll keep working it for a while and see. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify, just so the census data that they'll be working from then is from 2020.
2020, yes.
So we're 5 years beyond that, so those numbers.
That's true. Now, and I will say, we could request a special census, but then they have to have people come in, do all the canvassing, do all the things they do, and we have to pay for all that. Estimated number is $30,000 or something. So, no, that's not a reasonable option.
Okay.
Yeah. And I honestly don't know exactly what they do every year. They do some kind of statistical stuff and all to just look at how things are going those 10 years between the census. But as far as the certified population, they can only use the 2020. Next one will be 2030. So.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Okay. All right, the next report, I was going to ask we kind of reviewed them last time, so we'll see where we are now. As asking Patty McCord to talk about where we're working toward filling the position 3.
Thank you. We're going to be setting up interviews with the 3 candidates. I'm going to have to find some time that the folks sitting up here can meet with me and set some questions and then arrange times for interviews. Can I go ahead and go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so on building permits and inspections, big kudos to Bill Milligan and Dave Broughton because I've been using their vast knowledge of building to work on a document and forms for us to use. And then the next step is, in me learning, is to talk to an inspector to see what his suggestions are and how he might be doing that. So.
Okay, and yeah, a little bit on that. I'd even hoped that we would be able to get that by tonight, but really, it's pretty complicated. Patty and we've gone through several iterations with some others here, and looking at that and pulling in some of the best parts of what was in the POA plans and what we've taken from some other cities, trying to keep it comprehensive but as simplified as we can. Some cities get really complicated with it. We don't want to do that. But we feel like that, the POA used to have those inspections. That's all gone now. And we feel like for the integrity of City of Diamond Head and for the people who live out there and people who are going to live out there, that this is a reasonable thing to do to verify, really just verifying that the codes are met and the work is proper. So we're trying to get that wrapped up. Our lawyers also, our city attorneys involved in this, as well as the annexation stuff. So we're working with him, but as soon as we get this good draft together, we're going to get that to him also to review for all the legal steps and everything there. So you'll be hearing more about that pretty soon. Okay, the next is on strategic planning. And associated with that is also the grants and their pursuit. And so together I'll let Melanie talk about where we are on those.
Thank you. Well, strategic planning is really going to impact the kinds of grants that we write. And we know that there are some that just we need without that information. I was looking at the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration. They have a local law enforcement block grant that we'll be working on. And they also, the Arkansas Department of Recreation and Tourism has a fun park grant. So I'm going to be exploring what that means because that's come up several times, like walking paths and things like that in our community. And Carly Tapley, are you here, Carly? Okay, Carly has agreed to help me work on the grants as well as Kathy Kent. And you're going to be hearing more from Kathy about strategic planning because I asked her if she would work with us on that, and she's had experience doing that in communities and other entities. And so is she next?
Yeah, she's next.
So Kathy, would you come up and talk to us a little bit about that?
I had approached Melanie after the last council meeting when they were talking about needing someone to facilitate their strategic planning session. And as Melanie's mentioned, I did that on our last community, and I've worked with 4 organizations since moving here in Arkansas. And what that will really consist of is that I will send to all the council members asking for them to do a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And they fill them out as individuals, and based on that, an agenda is created, and then we'll have a one-day session where they will be talking about their mission statement, vision statement, because to my knowledge, that hasn't been developed, and then defining exactly what their priorities are moving forward. On a whole different thing, I was going to mention, as a courtesy to the council, and I appreciate this time, just to let you know what I'm doing. My current volunteer work has been involving as a moderator at the Garland County Library in partnership with Brave Angels Arkansas to moderate civil conversations every month. And I'm also an activator on the Civic Arkansas initiative through the Winthrop Rockefeller Institute. And the focus of these volunteer efforts are to create pathways for community building, to bring community members together. So I will be facilitating the Diamond Head listening sessions, and with the intent of offering community members the opportunity to engage in conversation on how they define community, how they distinguish their role, and to identify short and long-term priorities for the Diamond Head community. The listening sessions will last approximately 90 minutes. They will begin the week of March 31st, and there'll be 6 different offerings. There'll be some in the morning, afternoon, evening, and on that Saturday, in anticipation of hoping to get a lot of people involved. I will be offering these at the Diamond Head Banquet Room, and again, as a courtesy, I had a conversation with Mr. Lane about this, so what we're doing, what this is about. And these are constructive listening sessions. So any gripes or complaints of whether Diamond Head should be a city or not, or the discord between the POA and the city council are not part of the listening sessions. We're there to keep a positive outlook and for friends and neighbors to talk with each other in a whole different way. I mean, how often do you really sit down and talk to one another about, what is community? What is my role? And what do we want for our community? Promotion of this will begin the last part of, either this next week or the first part of March. After the listening sessions conclude, there'll be a survey that will be sent out, and that will be an opportunity for people who weren't able to attend the listening sessions or who want to add information. After that, this information will be available to the mayor and city councilors, the POA leadership, and the community members at large. So I hope when you see this, you'll consider attending, and I hope this body will consider attending as community members, not as elected officials, but as community members. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kathy.
All right, thanks a lot for doing this. I think it's a good idea for everybody to be able to get their thoughts together and hash them out, so we can really look and see what is it everybody is really in their priorities, the things we can go attack the best. So that's good. And again, like on the grant stuff, I will say again that that was when we were talking with the municipal league, they said the biggest area that there's availability for grants is in the water systems and sewer systems. And so that was one of the reasons, because we know there's a number of things we could do out here. And that's why we went and talked to see about whether we could get any on that, working through the county and such, but either we can't. So that's not something we can get on our plate right now. But we're looking at a lot of different things, as Melanie talked about. So, okay. Is Monica here? Okay. I got from her today, she had volunteered, last time we talked about having a contest for a logo and going through that. But after that meeting, she volunteered to look at developing a logo for us, and so that sounded easier and quicker and stuff. So she's been working on that. She's got, a couple, she's trying to look at some options, and but she sent me one today. Unfortunately, it was afternoon, and I never did get it printed off. So I'll pass that on to the council members, and we can look at that, and then we'll look and see what else is coming. But this is something then that would be more representative of the city to go on our website and go on letterhead and on our website and things like that. So anyway, we'll hear more about that later then. We also, I think I mentioned before that we talked with the Lake Hamilton Fire Department about how we could work more closely together and what things we could improve. And one of the things was that they've got plenty of training, they got equipment, they don't have anybody. There's one responder out here in all of Diamond Head. So anytime there's something, the responders from elsewhere has to get together and get here, and that takes a lot longer. If we could have people here, there's 2 fire engines right outside the gate. Their maintenance shop is there, and they keep them ready to go all the time. So even equipment is at our doorstep. So anyway, Charles had agreed to help coordinate that, work with the fire department. We were going to have the meeting Tuesday, but because of the weather, put that off till next week. But you got anything else you want to say about it, Charles?
No, just everybody show up, tell everyone to attend. It's going to be Tuesday on the 25th from starting at 6 p.m. I don't think there's any age limit or anything like that. So
it's going to be here, right?
it's going to be right here in this very spot. And the Chip, the recruiting officer, will be here, and he'll do a presentation and have any of the forms that for applicants. And as Ralph said, they have money, they have equipment, and they have a training facility just right down the road. All they need are bodies. So let's try and get enough people here and make that work. Apparently, at one time, we had our own volunteer fire department several years ago. I don't know if anyone here when that was happening.
And Miss Lou's husband started that, spearheaded that.
Yeah. So let's try and get that going again, because the last 2 fires we've had out here, those houses burnt to the ground because the response time out here takes so long to get everybody together and get them out here. That when they get here, the only thing they can do is contain the fire. Can't save it. So let's get everyone out here and see what we can do.
One thing I'd add to it too, Charles, is anybody that knows some younger guys that are interested in it, and let's face it, most of the volunteer fire departments have a bunch of older guys that know where they're going and a bunch of young guys to do the work. So if you've got somebody that you could, in mind, that you could put a bug in their ear to have them come out and at least understand what's going on with this, it would be a great help because, and most of those, in my experience, growing up in small town Iowa, the volunteer fire department was a key ingredient. It was also a social get together for the young guys and, well, everybody in the community, basically. So if you could do that, it'd sure help.
And the other thing we talked about with the fire department just in general, they've been working to also get a satellite ambulance out our way. Right now they have to come all the way from in town. And so we talked about that would also be an extreme benefit for out here, as many of us older folks are out here. And so there's nothing really actively going on there though, but we just agreed to work together to try to help make that happen. So that's just something that we had discussed. All right, thanks, Charles. Okay. We have been looking at what we need to do in terms of our webpage and data storage. We got to store all of our documents and minutes and different things, and how to get into those and what systems to use. And we're lucky enough to have some people out here who are IT specialists, and both in hardware and in the software that you have to use. And so Gary Borgeson has been working with us. Especially on the software side or no, the hardware side. And anyway, he's going to report tonight, but he didn't get finished with some of the research. So as he does, then he'll be able to discuss the different options, pros and cons, and then the city council will basically make a decision from that. But you want to talk any about kind of where that is then?
Sure.
You can come get the microphone.
I'm trying to be loud enough. There it is. Well, I realize now that this can be more of a technical conversation, so let me water it down a little bit, and just kind of back up a little bit, just to introduce the concept. First, let's see if David's our webmaster, and see if he responded back about the progress on our .gov domain, right? That's one of the fundamental things we need is a web domain, okay? Not only for our internet presence, our public-facing website for the city of Diamond Head, but also for things like email. Email and more specifically or more generally, collaboration. Collaboration kind of deals with a productivity suite, which is the software that like businesses, not only large enterprises, but small businesses use to communicate, whether it's a small work group or a very large corporation. So that's the Microsoft stuff. That's the Google stuff. You know, a lot of y'all are familiar with Gmail, for example. But Gmail is more or less a personal mail system just for you. When it comes to a small business or small work group, it's a different kind of an animal. It's actually you not only share email with your own domain, like for example, Ralph@cityofdiamondhead.com, but all the council members and the volunteers do as well. So it doesn't work well if everybody's got their own individual email box, and especially using personal stuff in an unsecured environment. So we won't talk about cybersecurity or anything like that. So it's not just email, but it's also video conferencing, for example. We all know about Zoom and those kind of things. But for this meeting, for example, this meeting could also be a remote conference. So the people that can't make it here, they can do their Zoom, so to speak. I'm going to use that term kind of loosely, at home where they can participate in this meeting. Well, there's more to it than just going out and subscribing to a service like Zoom. It really needs to be integrated with your email, with your chat, with your file sharing, because there's going to be document storage involved. So in order to do that, we really need to pick a particular product to accomplish these goals, instead of doing it kind of with half-baked, doing this and that. But those kind of software systems, they're expensive. They're expensive, and we can't afford it. So there are some alternatives out there that we may be able to afford in the meantime, but not necessarily in the meantime. It may be a product that we can start using and grow it over time, but not have to switch from one product line to a different product line as we grow. We can start off on the right track. So that's what we're trying to do right now, is evaluate these different productivity suites like Google Workplace and Microsoft 365, which is now that's 2 weeks ago. It's now Microsoft 365 Copilot. And there's some freeware out there too, but then again, the freeware, well, you get what you pay for. So what we're going to do is to see if we can't get started on that now, and also see, and I'll back up a little bit, not only I'm talking about email and chat, but also voice communications. And the file storage, all this is packaged together in a suite. So what David and I we'll be doing the next few weeks is to present to the council here what our recommendation is and how much it would cost us. For example, well, at least what our first budget would be. And it may be as little as $2 a person per month. Right now, the small business divisions are $6 per person. And I'll take a little sip of that. So it's, so it's trying to water that down. Now, I'm not really talking about, when I start talking about Microsoft, I'm not really talking about Word and Excel and Windows 11 and all that kind of business. I'm really just talking about the collaboration side of it. So, and then think about sending out a community calendar, right? A community calendar, whereas the administrator sends out an invitation to this meeting, and it lands on your calendar and reminds you that you have a meeting scheduled for Thursday night at the church, whatever. So all of that is a part of what I'm trying to talk about. I'm trying to stay at a higher level, but I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I'm sorry about that. So also storage, and we need a place to put our files. So that file storage repository that has that website that interacts with it, where you find, for example, the transcript to this meeting, that would be covered in the suite that we're evaluating. So, does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So hopefully within a month or so, we can demonstrate and do some beta testing with a particular product.
I'm familiar with the suite concept. What's a ballpark? I know you're not going to want to answer me right now. What's a ballpark cost for an organization that's probably going to be this size? For startup?
Typically, now, on the enterprise level, you're also talking about your operating system too. So we're going to leave that out for now. It's about $35 a head per month. But with the smaller versions, the small business versions, that don't come with the desktop versions, the browser based, we're looking at $6 a head, whether that's the Google product or the Microsoft product.
All right, does that also include all the meetings and
yes,
sending of the calendar and setting time in the calendar?
Yes, yeah.
What about storage?
For example, Microsoft, you've got all of them come with a certain amount of storage, whatever it is, 1 terabyte, 5 terabytes of online storage, cloud storage.
What is that?
It comes with with that suite that we're talking about email, video conferencing, storage, and chat, voice IP, talking.
So George?
So $35 per head?
No,
He said it's.
no, 35 for a large organization. For a small business organization, $6.
What's the definition for a large, or what's the definition for a small?
Usually over 300 users is like the 35, but I don't think we're going to have a staff of 300 anytime soon. But we're talking $6, but to start off with, without Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc., could be less than $6. There's this new product called Frontline that it may be $2. Well, that's what we're trying to figure out right now. I wasn't prepared to really talk about prices tonight.
So George, can I throw something out?
Yeah.
So if we had 20 people that were on this at $6 a head per month, it would be about $1,500 for the year. So we're not talking about a huge exorbitant amount.
Yeah.
But if you add the people in the community and they're wanting to communicate.
Oh, no, the community are really participants. For example, the licensed users, these folks right here that spend, the community spends $6 a piece for them, they can invite you to a meeting and you can participate in it for free.
But that doesn't add to cost.
No. Organizers are the ones that are, the meeting organizer is the ones that need the license, not the community participants.
Okay. What's the historical side?
This is just the business side you're talking about.
Right.
And then people, everybody else is able to see it online. And
Yeah.
or whatever we would have that.
Right. So, you may have a vendor that you deal with that wants to send you an invite for a sales meeting, for example. You don't have to pay for that. It's the same deal. But now, is that interesting though, to have remote video conferencing? Especially if you're sick or whatever and you can't make it and you really want to participate. And you'll also, if depending on the policy, is that you can also go as far as you're participating in the meeting and you can ask questions from home.
Well, I mean, COVID told us that you need to be remote at some meeting.
Right.
Keep the organization moving forward.
Right. Exactly.
Storage.
Yeah.
Where is it stored? Cloud?
All of this is cloud-based these days. Okay. Years ago, we would be talking about how are we going to stand up a server and where we're going to put the server. But these days, it's cloud computing. Can't afford, there's no need for us to do any of that in-house anyway. Even big organizations outsource their server farms to people like Microsoft and Amazon. Anyway, no.
Is there a cost involved with the storage?
No, it comes with the suite. In that $6, you get a certain amount of storage. And then when you exceed it, well then, you'll have to pay a little bit more, but we're a long ways from using more than a terabyte.
No, what I'm thinking of though, is if you set up the system, it has to be ongoing, and they're gonna have upgrades every 2 to 3 years. Is it gonna be compatible with what you've already got?
Well, if we start off on the right track using a big vendor like Google and Microsoft, they're going to be around, right? Yeah. But if we start off with this one that I ran into just 2 hours ago, named Zoho, which is free. So we start off with Zoho. No, it's $1 per user a month. Now we start off with that, and we get on down the road and we say, well, we've outgrown it. Not only that, we don't like it. Then we'd start over again. But most people, especially the academics here, they're already kind of familiar with Google, and it's already very intuitive to them. Now, if you're more of come from a business background, you're already familiar with Microsoft like Teams and these kind of things. So the point is you choose a suite instead of having Zoom to do this and another product to do another function, another product do another function. We get a suite that they're all integrated, and all these functions together are integrated together. That's why we're kind of starting to we're going to start off comparing Google with Microsoft, and then do some evaluations and see what we like the best.
I'd say, all the big cities that we've been, or big cities, the other cities, small and large, we've been talking to, they used to have to keep rooms, after a few years at least, rooms of file cabinets and stuff, and everybody's getting away from that now because that's too expensive, takes up too much room. You can do it so easily now on the computer and in the cloud. So all the other cities, they scan documents, they scan receipts, everything, and upload it and store it that way. We do recognize, though, that there are some important documents that we're going to have file cabinets where we're going to want to keep the original document. But if it's a lot of day-to-day stuff or things we have to keep, we'll scan those and upload them.
Well, like resolutions and ordinances are on the web page, and they can get access through that too.
And also and you're also talking about policy that needs to be developed, and who has permission over what. But the biggest deal, and I want to end with this one, the biggest deal is the management of such a system. And my idea is that we find some young, talented volunteers. David and I, we can mentor a little bit. I'm more from the engineering background, but I know enough about it that I can find or actually get with some of the youth of the community, and I'm sure there's some out there that would love to get involved, put something on their resume, especially if they want to go down the IT track. It's a good thing to put on your resume. So more on that later. We'll write up a job description, maybe post it on Facebook, and then spread the word that we're looking for, especially if anybody that knows a teacher or staff at Lakeside High, I'd like to communicate with them. I understand they have some kind of a program that there may be some young volunteers that could help us out.
The Lakeside High School kids that help us a lot here in the community have to have a certain number of volunteer hours.
Right.
And they know more about computers in third grade than most of us.
Right. And I hear they're the ones that keep up and maintain the teachers' computers. So,
Okay, great. All right. Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, and we've got a lot of people working on different things. We really appreciate the time that he and David Vilches have put in. And since he mentioned it, I will say we've been holding off on kind of putting it out there because David's been trying to get it set up and beginning to fill it. So we've got a beginning, and you can get to it now by going in and looking for City of Diamond Head AR.gov. And our website will come up. Like I say, we're not advertising it yet because he's still filling it out. But it does have, it has some kind of like an introduction, welcome at first, pictures of Diamond Head that we took, and then it's got under the governance, it's got the city officials, and we're each putting in a bio there. Some of them are in, some of them aren't yet. But all of our resolutions that we've already passed, all of our ordinances are in there. You can go in, click on, read it, find out anything you want there. So it's beginning to get fleshed out. So we're not going to announce it openly yet, but pretty soon we hope. But if you want to go, you can go find it right now. So.
And don't be discouraged, because I've had to go roundabout ways to get there on it sometimes. It doesn't come up right away a lot of times.
Yeah. And, as we were talking about the .gov, that only goes to recognized government entities. And so we had to apply for that. We had to make copies of that stuff to send to them so they knew we were real. And then one day I got a call from a lady from Homeland Security. And she's saying, we want to verify that you requested this. And I said, yes, ma'am, we've been working that and talking that and everything. And anyway, and so the next day the .gov was approved. So anyway, so we're moving along.
Yeah, we both got that call.
Yep. Let's see. David, did you get the first page of my agenda? Or Gary? Did you get the first page of my agenda when you were up here? I'm not seeing it.
You don't have it memorized?
No.
Sure did. Sorry about
All
that.
right. Okay. Well, that was the end of that page anyway. Okay. Under unfinished business, I have the report by the mayor. So I was going to speak about a few things. I think actually one I already did. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that we've turned every stone and talked to every person about getting money, and it's just going to be the end of the year before we can do that. Now, we have had some discussions. A lot of people, we're operating on right now donated funds. Other people have made donations, and so what we can do will be depend on what money we have. So we've kicked around some ideas, and I'll just say to the city council, if we're ready to accept some of those and start planning moving forward, but if we still want to discuss it and think about it some, that's okay too. Some of the things we have discussed though, it has been recommended and thought about is basically having a potluck with a $20 entry fee. And that would be one way to raise some funds. Another, which could be, some of these could be, don't have to do just one, we could do different ones of them, but is basically looking at a donation and having a plaque that identifies different levels. Somebody wanted to give $1,000 or $500 or $100 or $50, then we could recognize that. Or have them where it's just $100 flat and have basically a board that would put people's names on there that give and have some recognition. Another thing I've thought about as we were talking about some of these things, and there's things we could do, and it all depends on how much money that we had. A lot of people, I get a lot of questions about security. We've looked at either a city marshal, that could even be just part-time, so we could, depend on how much money we had, would be how much we could do, 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week or whatever. If people wanted to do that, there were other things we could do if we had more money. So we could even look at setting up where if people wanted to donate on a monthly basis, and we could even set it up where it's a direct deposit, $20 a month, $10 a month, even if we had everybody that would kick in out here would be enough to do a lot of different things, including the security. So I think those kind of things we need to think about. But if there's some of these we want to go ahead and incorporate, then I would open it for the board members to speak what they think about where we go forward.
Would like to recognize those people now that have given already.
Why don't you do that?
We have had some very generous people this evening. The Landrums have given us a $500 donation. The social committee, my wife, Kathy back there, Kathy Kent, Melanie, any other members on the social committee in here? They have given us a $1,000 donation. So thank you so much, folks. We really appreciate it. And I think you guys deserve a hand as far as.
And we're trying to do things that don't cost money. There's still a lot we can do. A lot of our planning and a lot of the putting together resolutions, ordinances, those don't necessarily cost anything, except the ordinances. Every time we have one, it has to be published in the Sentinel Record. And what was the last ones on that?
The last one we had was our ordinance for the taxes, and that was $161 because it was one page and not as extensive.
But how much were the others, the other two that we did?
The other two, one was 250 something, the other was 290.
So, those kind of things can add up quickly. There's other things, every time we do something, like, when we go in to get the Census Bureau thing, they have a fee. Everybody has a fee, just like it's the same with the city as anybody else. So we do have things that we need to be able to do, but if we had more money, then we could go ahead and start implementing some of those things that we'll be able to pay for once we start getting the state turnback money, so we could do it sooner. Any other discussions on that? Okay, I think those things we're thinking about, we'll let those lie, but probably by the next meeting, we'll look at recommendations of which ones we want to actually put in place and start looking at that then.
I did leave somebody out. Our neighbor, Trina Spear, also gave us a donation of $20. So just
good deal. And of course, that's just like right now. We've had lots of people donating all through the incorporation time, and then what money they had left turned over to the city, and we're just moving on with that. Don't have any ordinances or resolutions ready for tonight. We're really kind of reporting on the status of some of these things, but some of the ones that we will be coming up with, hopefully the next time, will be the building permits and inspections. We're looking at the gates and roads. I didn't mention, we talked about before that one of the things that cities can get, there's a street fund program that's available to municipalities. And being a new city, we were encouraged to put in, so I can't remember the date, but very early, first week in January, I wrote the letter describing our needs and turned it in. Well, I got a call from a fellow at RDOT, and he said that he had some questions, and said that because of our not having had funds before, being a new city, that we would probably rise to the top of the list. And now the problem with that is, and it's $400,000 grant, so, but that would only pave like 2 miles. But anyway, you get them in pieces. You're eligible for those in next year. Now, he said if you get one this year, you're not going to get one next year. But as your needs can rise to the top, and depending on when you got one last, it is a continuing thing. So, but even if we're at the top of the list, they don't make the selections till December. So it's just, all this stuff is slow. It's just like molasses, but you got to get in the game somewhere.
I'm assuming since Park Lane does not recognize us as a city, he's probably not willing to turn the streets over to us, is he? Well,
we've got from now to December to work that. So, yeah. Okay. I want to tell you something about sales and use tax. And actually, I hadn't thought about it that much, but Charles mentioned something that made me think about it. He said, why can't we be getting sales tax money that's going to Hot Springs? And I was thinking, well, Hot Springs shouldn't be getting any sales tax money from out here. But if you've checked any of your bills from Amazon and places, especially the mail order stuff, they are 9.5%, which 6.5% is state, 1.5% is the county, and 1.5% for Hot Springs City makes 9.5%. And so I checked at the market, and that's what they're doing. They said that's what they were told by the Department of Finance to do. I'm just guessing really. I think they're just going by the zip code. Since we're 71913, it just goes to Hot Springs. So I called and talked to the Department of Finance people, and they said that it should be being done right. And so they have a program on their website. You can go in and find your address, and it'll tell you what your tax should be. So we put mine in, and sure enough, it was 8%, because we shouldn't be getting the 1.5%. And so she said, well, maybe they're not using the full zip code, the 9, because that's what they supposedly go by to break down areas. So I checked my Amazon account, and it's got all of them in there. So I had several conversations with Amazon. They finally sent me to their tax exempt group, and had conversations with them, and they contacted me later and said, we agree, you should only be 8%. And I also, in the discussion with them, said, hey, it's not just me, we've got a whole community out here that needs to get corrected. And so they said in their statement that they were working to correct it, but whether they meant me or the whole community, I really don't know. But they also then said, if you will contact and send a message about this to tax-exempt@amazon.com and tell them what's going on, they will send you a link or a path. I had to go back to them a second time to get it, but they will send you a path that they'll send you all of your orders you've ever made. And so if you lived out here, so you can then download that and then copy out the ones that are pertinent to out here that's been paid to Hot Springs, and then send that back to them. They will reimburse that 1.5% over how many ever years you've been doing it. They sent me mine. I have not yet cut it out, copied that all out and sent back to them. But anyway, I don't know if there's more that we can do. I did mention it to the county judge when I was talking about it. He kind of seemed to be aware that there had been some discussions about some of that. He said, the way this stuff is set up, it's so hard to get changed, especially something big like Amazon. But one thing, if you're always going to have to pay it and it's going to be hard to get changed, it might be worth passing a 1.5 cent sales tax and getting it set up on the city, and then they would have to pay it to us, not Hot Springs. So we haven't made any moves in that direction. We'll see what happens, but that's an option that we may want to think about as a community, because we're paying it already anyway.
Right.
It's just going to the city of Hot Springs, and has been ever since they started this.
It shouldn't affect really anybody outside of the 19th hole, the golf course, and the market.
Yeah, and I checked the online stuff. If you look at Walmart, they only charge me 8%. We get stuff for the cat from Chewy, and they charge 8%. But if you order anything from Wayfair, it's 9.5%.
Yeah.
So it's all these companies have their own mechanism, I guess, and it's no skin off their nose, because they're just collecting and sending it on to somebody else. So they don't care if it goes to the right place or not, probably. So, but anyway, it is an issue out here, though. So, yeah, Kim.
I would just like to mention, I had a contractor at my house last week, and he lives out in the county, and he got a $1,600 rebate from Amazon because of overtaxes.
Well, there you go.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
I took it, look at mine, we've only been there 4 years, but it looks like it's gonna be close to $400.
Yeah.
So that 1.5% adds up when you talk about, you get stuff from Amazon every day. So, yeah.
Well, because of your good work, Ralph, maybe the community members who get their reimbursement.
Well, we would be all for that. But anyway, and we'll probably put something on the website, giving the instructions, so, some people probably will think it's too much trouble, and that's okay, but at least they'll know they have an option to go get that money back. Yeah. And whether we'll be able to get it changed for the future, I'm not sure. It's hard to get people's attention, but, I did get to the right people at Amazon. You just got to keep pressing them, so. Okay, we also, she's not here. They're off in Mexico having a fun time, but Chris Potts, of course, has helped a lot in taking information and putting it on the different Facebook pages and email lists and stuff. And so we have set up, she helped us set up a City of Diamond Hood Facebook page so that people could comment, and we could also, put out information that people would want to know about for the city. And then there's also an associated City of Diamond Hood group page. And so so those are things that's out there, and I've already mentioned that we're working on the website. It is now available. Just recognize that it's in a building process.
Infancy.
Infancy, that's a good way to put it, yeah. But it is out there, so you can look at it. That's all I have. Anybody else got anything that we need to comment or bring up? Any members? Okay, without that then, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Well, right. All right, passed. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh.